So this is what we're going to be covering throughout the presentation. It's going to go by really, really quick. Some of the key highlights are going to be, just the Dream Summer overview, what it means to be a host organization. We're also going to get to share some of the projects that our fellows work on throughout their placements, get a little bit of the sections that you all will potentially be filling out in the application. And then lastly, have a space for questions if there's still any questions that you all might have from the program, the presentation, or anything that is still on your mind. So we'll get started with the Dream Summer overview. So the Dream Summer Fellowship is the annual national fellowship of the UCLA Labor Center Dream Research Center. Very lengthy name. But throughout Dream Summer, the DRC has provided over 900 fellowship opportunities to immigrant youth and allies, and has partnered with over 265 social justice organizations across the country. Organizations have been able to be part of different work sectors, whether that's policy, labor organizing, grassroots organizing, healthcare, even some organizations that focus on community art and whatnot. So those fields range widely. It also depends on the interest of our fellows as well, what organizations would partner with. So it's always really exciting to get to partner with new and existing organizations that focus on different parts of, social advocacy or social movement work. So Dream Summer 2023 is open to both experienced social justice leaders or folks that are just beginning their journey and want to learn more about their involvement in social justice. The fellowship is open to all immigrant youth, regardless of immigration status. However, one key highlight that we do want to share with you all is that we do require participants to have an active ITIN. It's simply for the payment processes and to make sure that we're able to send them their payments in time. So participants do need to have an active ITIN before the start of the program, so their payment doesn't get further delayed. And then applicants do not need to be from UCLA or any college or high school to be able to qualify for the fellowship, as long as that they're over the age of 18 and interested in social justice movements, they're more than welcome to apply. The Dream Summer Fellows do receive a $5,000 fellowship award. They also receive leadership and professional development training and become part of the National Alumni Network of over 900 immigrant rights leaders. And then to be completely transparent with you all, that $5,000 fellowship is distributed at the end of the fellowship program. So they receive their full payment towards the end. And, we try to be as transparent as possible because we know that is, difficult to wait for payment for that long, but we try to be as transparent with both organizations and fellows that their fellowship award does get distributed at the end of the 8-week placement. And then with that, our application for fellows are open. So if you all know any interested applicants, please let them know that we have an info session coming up next week, and applications are going to be due January 6th, and that they can apply starting now.
Thank you, Jessica. So we want to now share more of the program layout so that folks can get a better understanding of maybe the time commitment that organizations typically take on. So as Jessica mentioned, the fellow application is due January 6th, but we also have a host application that's also open right now, and that it will be due December 5th. We have an open retreat, which serves to prepare fellows for their placement and build community with one another. It's a really unique space because it's one of the few spaces I feel where there's only undocumented youth, and so from across the country that really get to share just their different experiences, their different accomplishments, and really share a lot of joy with one another. It's really cool to be in that space. Typically we have a lot of different team building activities, workshops regarding organizing, burnout, other sessions that can prepare fellows that can prepare fellows for their placement and the work that they'll be doing. A lot of our fellows, they have either they vary from background, right? So they might have, this might be their first time, like their first introduction to advocacy work. But actually a lot of them do have just a lot of experience, just their lived experiences, or work with other organizations. So those retreats are really helpful. Last year, we actually were able to invite host organizations for lunch. We kind of were like it was a trial to see how it would match, and it was very successful. It was just a bit short, but we definitely want to partner and see to collaborate with organizations at the opening and incorporate them in our opening retreat, because we find that it was very helpful for fellows to get to know their supervisor, but also fellows that might not have been able to connect with different organizations. They were able to ask questions, so it worked also as a networking opportunity. As mentioned, most of our fellows are also first-gen identified, so navigating and offering those opportunities of network or facilitating those is very important. And so we were really lucky that a lot of supervisors were able to attend the session and just meet with their assigned fellow and meet with other fellows. And this was virtual for last year's opening retreat. And then we do have the placement that will take place next year. It will be from June 23rd, which I believe is a Friday, to August 10th. And so we just want to make sure that organizations are prepared to welcome fellows, to onboard them. We want our fellows to start at the same time. So it's very important that the host organization supervisor can communicate with their fellow of any changes. And we typically provide the contact information at least 2 weeks before the start date of the organization, so that supervisors can reach out and introduce themselves, as well as communicate with the rest of their teams that a fellow will be joining for this period. So it's very important that whoever the fellow will be working with or not, with that organizations communicate that a fellow will be placed from June 23rd to August 10th. And then we do have a closing retreat that will happen now August 11th to August 12th. And then this serves as a way for fellows to kind of come back together, share their experience, the work that they did, and really celebrate our fellows. So we have a ceremony. Last year, we were able to do a hybrid closing retreat, which we do hope that both our opening and closing retreat take place hybrid, so that both organizations can join, and fellows who might not feel comfortable because we're still in an ongoing pandemic can join virtual as well. But the closing retreat, we offer sessions that focus, that really center the needs of undocumented folks. So some of our most popular sessions that we always put out is independent contracting, grad school, or navigating grad school as an undocumented person. And then last year, we actually were able to uplift different campaigns from the organizations that we partnered with. So we were able to uplift Proposition 308, if folks may be familiar with it, in Arizona. So we partnered with Aliento, who was doing a lot of advocacy efforts to advance Proposition 308. And so fellows got to be part of that, who weren't living in Arizona, but really supporting that work that Aliento was doing. So that's just kind of how the closing retreats play out. And we share this because our hope is that if capacity allows, that organizations can join these retreats and really take advantage of the different activities that fellows do, and maybe assign a certain time, so that the organizations can join. And it's just a really joyful space to be in. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. And then as we shared, we have partnered with over 265 organizations throughout the country. We really encourage organizations outside of California to apply, so that we're able to provide more opportunities for our fellows who might not be located in California. And definitely more grassroots organizations, but different, as Jessica mentioned, different sectors that organizations can work on. So the type of work that orgs do can vary from focusing on healthcare access, education, policy, labor rights, and a lot more. These are all issues that impact immigrant communities. So we definitely want to ensure that we expand our outreach. So if you all know also of organizations that can benefit from having a Dream Summer Fellow, we definitely encourage you all to share this information and see if it could be a potentially good partnership and the timing aligns. And so yeah, this is just wanted to share some of the few organizations that we have partnered with.
Thank you so much for sharing, Gabby. And now we're going to get into a little bit of what it's going to mean to be a host organization. So as we mentioned, the fellows will be in their placements from June 23rd to August 10, which will be their last day. We do ask that August 10 could potentially be a shorter day, since some fellows potentially might be flying out to attend closing retreat, which happens the day right after. But that's going to be a conversation as we head closer towards programming. But we do expect organizations to provide a successful orientation to foster that transition from fellows to their organization. As Gabby mentioned, please make sure that your team is aware that a Dream Summer Fellow is participating, just so that if there's potential for cross-team collaborations or any other sectors in your organization that the fellow could also shadow or participate in. It's always important for us to have those options available for fellows. We also expect, organizations to communicate with their fellows before their first day with logistics, if it's going to be a virtual placement, any Zoom links that they're going to be needing, or if it's going to be in person, address and whatnot. I remember from my first day, I had the address for the organization, but I didn't know what building it was. So it was a very nerve-wracking time for me to be outside and very nervous to not know where to go. So in order to ease a lot of those nervousness and that anxiety that comes up, we ask that you all communicate very clearly with the fellow about what their first day is going to look like. Then we also require on June 1st for all host organizations to submit a work plan to us. We know that, things may arise throughout their placements, new projects, new campaigns, but we ask that you all do the best to provide us with a solid work plan for those 8 weeks, because we do share it with the fellow prior to their placement dates, just in case the fellow wants to add anything as well, because, it's a mutual relationship. In case they want to add anything, is there anything that they're interested in learning more about? We have that time frame to include that in their work plan as well. Lastly, we also hope y'all maintain, communication with us. We do have 2 mandatory check-ins with host organization supervisors. And those check-ins will happen with us, the project coordinators, just to kind of get a sense of how the fellow is doing and what kind of support you all might need from us. So it's always important for us to kind of check in with one another and see where the fellows are at. But they should be very, very quick, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, kind of depending on how much needs to be shared.
We also want the host organizations to maintain that same communication with fellows. We want them to practice at least having weekly check-ins with our fellows if capacity allows. Usually our organizations do either 15 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour of weekly check-ins with fellows to ensure that they are feeling comfortable, that they're understanding the assignments, that they're checking in with them about any goals that they have for the summer, offering any professional development opportunities, and really so that the fellows can really take advantage of being in their placement, learn about the work that different orgs are doing, and different people within the organizations are doing, and see really what they might like about the work, see who they can connect with. As Jessica might have mentioned as well, but for myself, I didn't really know too much about like how to network, and that's something that we also continue to kind of encounter. That's just like some folks might be on the more shy side or might not know how to have those conversations. So definitely want to encourage fellows that in those check-ins, we also tell them, right, to feel comfortable asking questions, but those check-ins really encourage them to be comfortable in having conversations maybe with their supervisors, to practice that. So having said this, a big component of host organizations is also to offer that mentorship to our fellows, offer any professional development opportunities. That means maybe, or that might look like including them in meetings, introducing them to the team, maybe challenging them to facilitate or lead a meeting. We do a skills tracking assessment at the beginning of the opening retreat to see where folks are at. And that just kind of allows us to see what sort of projects fellows might want to work on or engage in. A lot of our fellows last year, they wanted to really practice public speaking. So like through our check-ins with our host organizations, we wanted to make sure that their supervisors were aware that this was an area of opportunity for our fellows, and that the supervisor could provide them with those opportunities. I know that for myself, it was really cool to have the communications director at SEIU, so that would see us, right? Like, oh, like you guys are interns, like, you know, you want to join us on this meeting, and like we really didn't have a role, but it meant a lot for her to allow us to join in that meeting and just kind of listen in to how those meetings would take place. And I really admire her, and I think developed a really good relationship with her. And so definitely want to provide those spaces for our fellows. Some of them might also just be very comfortable and they will ask for themselves as well. So as I share, there's we have very different level of like experience with our fellows. But definitely want our organizations to provide those opportunities. And then lastly, we do have two other things. Submit a post evaluation. So we want our host organizations to submit an evaluation. This really helps us to learn what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. We know that there's a lot of areas of growth within the program. We want to expand. And so a lot of the feedback that we get from fellows as well and from host organizations is very much valued. And it could happen through, you know, that formal evaluation, but also we welcome folks to share any of their thoughts even after that as well. But this helps us as we create reports as well. And then host organizations will be responsible for the day-to-day supervision of fellows. We are pretty much hands-off when it comes to the projects, unless our organizations need that additional support. Then of course we'll be able to support as needed or as necessary. But really the projects and just kind of the day-to-day items that happen in the organizations are to the supervisor, the person that will supervise the fellows. And then as we have expectations for the host organizations, we also have expectations for our fellows. Big thing that we I think they might be sick of us sharing it, but it's huge, is just communication with their DRC mentor. So this will be our third year where Dream Summer Fellows will be assigned a Dream Summer, a Dream Summer mentor. So we have been able to partner and pay our Dream Summer alumni to mentor the Dream Summer Fellows, or the current Dream Summer Fellows. Fellows have really taken advantage of that. And it's a really good opportunity to connect folks, to kind of share their experience. Some folks might not feel comfortable approaching their supervisor and might feel more comfortable with a mentor. And so an expectation that we have is that fellows do check-ins with either coordinators or DRC mentors. And that happens bi-weekly, and it's usually very short, maybe 30 minutes. Just again, checking in, ensuring that we are able to support them, that we're able to connect them with different resources. It could be even support with projects that they're working on at their organization, or just on a personal matter. I know that a lot of our fellows were asking questions about grad school, and so we, the Dream Summer mentors were able to connect them, or they themselves were in grad school as well. But a big component of that is communication. So that's definitely an expectation that we have for them. Another expectation that we have is it is a 40 hours per week commitment, and the fellows are able to request 2 days off for any personal matter of their sake. And so we definitely hope as well that the organizations can be as flexible and understanding that the things do come up as well. And then any sort of arrangement or scheduling that happens between the host organization and the fellow, we want the host organization to indicate in their application if they will need a fellow that has availability on evenings or on weekends, because a lot of the organizations that we partner with, do work whenever our communities do work as well. And so we definitely want to make sure that we communicate that with the fellows, and that the fellow meets those expectations of either, going in evenings or weekends if capacity, and that helps us a lot with matching. We expect fellows to complete tasks assigned by host organization supervisor, for them to be flexible and dependable, as mentioned, to attend both the opening and closing retreat, to really take advantage of these networking opportunities. A lot of our fellows have gotten jobs afterwards, or have been able to be independent contractors with host organizations. But these are things that have to be facilitated a lot of the times by their supervisors, and just really encouraging that. So that's something that we really try to hype up with the fellows. But I know that when I was a fellow, like I would hear like from here, and then they would come out this way. It kind of just would happen when I would meet with the supervisor. And then to practice self-care and self-advocacy, we have a whole session dedicated to that in our opening retreat. And we encourage them to, advocate for themselves. Should there be too much work? Of course, we don't want our fellows to be burnt out. So definitely identifying those signs. And then we hope that organizations can support us in that, in that they practice those same things of self-care and self-advocacy, and can help our fellows achieve that, or share any concerns that they might have as well.
And now we get to share a little bit of some of the projects that our fellows have been able to work on. As we mentioned, they've been able to work on different campaigns. They've been able to do policy research, community outreach, working on door knocking, for example, to spread know your rights information to their community members. They have been able to lead and attend community meetings to talk about the pressing issues that are happening within their own communities. They have been able to do really amazing social media marketing. As you can see, we had a couple of fellows here who did really amazing TikToks to reach out to the undocumented community at large, right? So we had Janetta, who was working with the Korean Research Center, who focused on that. Then they also have been able to work on labor organizing, connecting with workers to invite them to be part of unions, and the importance of joining the unions. Also, folks who have been doing canvassing, whether it's through phone banking or, as I mentioned, in person as well. And then we had other really amazing projects such as toolkits. Next slide. Toolkits, we have two great examples that were done by two of our fellows this past year who were placed with Gender Justice LA. They both worked on issues that were important to them. Our fellow Christian focused on food resources for Inland Empire undocumented folks. The guide also includes recipes, really quick recipes that folks can do, as well as the resource guide for resources for folks that need to access food resources. And then we had Daphne, who worked on a disability and accessibility and advocacy toolkit. They both did amazing work that was interesting to them, and that allowed them to express their own creativity in these projects, but as well as support the work that Gender Justice LA was already doing in these two different communities, right? So we're really proud of all the work the fellows do, and they really do get to thrive when they work on these very creative projects, because they're so smart and amazing. So they get to be able to really tackle on these issues because they have their own lived experience or whatever it is that they're interested in doing.
Yeah, those projects were really awesome to see. It was one of the projects the fellows worked on, so definitely encourage organizations, as much as they all have. We know that organizations will have their own projects that they could allow that flexibility for the fellows to work on something that they want to work on as well. We want to share some of the testimonials from different organizations that we worked on, because we just really can't talk enough good things about our fellows. But with Baji, one of the goals of Baji is to organize communities and create a base through education and relations. Having the fellows with us allowed us to extend our community outreach. We partner with President's Alliance, who shared that they benefited from our participation in Dream Summer. Andrea was able to help move forward our work through developing a fact sheet on in-state interstate tuition agreements, reviewing talking points on expanding access to in-state tuition in Arizona, and helping set up and coordinate initiatives like the student strategy table. And then lastly, having a helping hand and fresh eyes to see and opine on different projects that we had going on was great for our staff, especially since the fellows were impacted folks themselves. So our fellows are very capable, smart, and very much filled with a lot of knowledge. So we want organizations to support their personal and professional goals and really expand and take advantage of the skills that they have. But yeah, we really can't, we really can't talk too many good things about our fellows because they really are great. Every year has been amazing. From the previous years that we've looked at, and then this first year that we had with Jessica, it was a very awesome experience to have a hybrid retreat, to be able to interact with them and to be able to see so much amazing work that they did during just a very short summer.
And then we'll do a little bit of an overview for the application that you are going to be potentially filling out. So there's a couple different sections that we require host organizations to fill out. And the first one is going to be the general contact information, just information about your organization, a supervisor that's going to be working with the fellows. Afterwards, we're going to have a section on COVID-19 regulations and accommodations. So now, as we mentioned, we're still in an ongoing pandemic, and we're hoping that this process will allow us to match fellows with host organizations that can do either hybrid, remote, or in-person work. So we also ask the fellows their comfort level in terms of their placement. And that's how one of the ways that we try to match host organizations with their fellows, because we know that some work has to be done in person. So we want to make sure that our fellows feel comfortable in engaging in that work as well. Then the section 3 is going to talk a little bit about the scope of work and responsibilities. So just a small section on any potential projects that the fellow might be working on. We know that, summer is really far from now, but just any general projects that y'all anticipate the fellows that could work on will also give us a better idea on how to match the fellows, because we ask the fellows what kind of work they're interested in. So having that general kind of scope of work will allow us to better our matching process. And then afterwards, it's going to be a section on skills matching, the selection of fellows. So this is going to be around any qualities or any skills that you might be looking for in a fellow. Again, to make sure that that matching process goes as smoothly as possible. And then our section 5 is going to be on organizations culture. So we just want to get an understanding on what kind of work environment the fellows are going to be placed in. Section 6 talks a little bit about logistics. So, if fellows are going to need any transportation, the number of fellows you would like to work with, as well as any weekends that you might require the fellows to work on. And then afterwards, it's just going to be a section 7, and it's going to be in regards to funding. So, sometimes organizations are able to sponsor their own fellow, and that's going to be a $7,000 commitment. $5,000 goes to the fellow, and then $2,000 goes to any logistics, such as plane tickets, hotel stay, venue for the actual retreat, and things like that. However, we do have some funding for organizations that may not be able to commit for that sponsorship. So please don't let that discourage you all from applying. We try to match the fellows as much as possible with organizations that interest them. And then the last section is just going to be on host organization agreements, so the time commitment and whatnot. It's a really quick and easy section.
Was muted. We're almost done. I just wanted to share more of a detailed timeline. Again, reminding folks that for interested organizations, deadline is December 5th. From January 31st to February 6th, host organizations who have selected to choose their fellow from a pool of applicants that we provide We'll have to make a decision by February 6th, so they will have that pool of applicants by the end of January. So to coordinate any interviews that they might want to do. And you, of course, have the option to also allow us to do the matching. By mid-February to March, fellows, we will have confirmed fellows with their host organizations, and we'll be sending out notifications to participating host organizations. We just ask for a lot of patience with that communication. We try to be as timely as we can. And then June 1st, which has been, I think we've mentioned a few times, just sending in work plans, or at least a tentative work plan that we can send to fellows so that they are aware of what are some of the things that they'll be working on. And then early June, host organizations can begin reaching out to their fellows to provide details on their work. We mentioned, work plans, work email, first aid details, etc. Some organizations also like to provide any technology. The Dream Research Center does not, or is not able to provide those technology, but we know that some organizations are able to. And then June 19th to June 21st, again, the opening retreat, the placement, June 23rd to August 10th, and then August 11th to August 12th will be our closing retreat. And okay.
And then we're also going to be able to provide some support. As we mentioned in the previous slide, we partner with alumni who also did the project, the program, to be able to coach the fellows throughout their placement, to prepare them for a successful experience before and after working with their host organizations. We also provide support with the host organizations regarding communication, their work plan, any guidance that they might need at opening retreat before the start of their fellowship program. And then we'll check in with you all 2 times during the program just to ensure that we continue that communication. If there's any support that you all might need, we're able to provide it to you all as soon as possible. And then, as always, if there's any trouble, if we want to troubleshoot any issues that arise, please let us know, and we'll always be there to provide that support as well.
I think we are ready for questions, if there are any questions.
Yes. I saw a couple on the chat. So I think we have the first one, who is, do we apply as an organization or we apply for an individual, and how does that work? So typically folks apply as an organization, and in the application itself, it will tell you which sections to fill out for supervisor information. So typically it's just one person that works on the application, since it's pretty straightforward, but it's done as an organization. And then for the hour commitment, it is 40 hours per week with 2 days that they're able to request off. And then we have, is it preferred for fellows to be able to be in an office or virtual? That really does depend on both the host organization and their needs. And as well as the fellow. Most successful partnerships or matches are where mentors can provide, supervisors can provide that mentorship to our fellows. So that whether it's in person or virtually, like as long as they're able to provide that mentorship and really detail what kind of support that the fellows have, it's always a successful match, regardless of in person or virtual.
And yeah, if I can just add as well, sometimes our organizations will, there's a section, I think this is the COVID-19 regulations, they'll indicate that they rather have a fellow that can work in person. We do want to let folks know that we can also arrange a way where fellows who might be out of state but and are a great match for your organization, but might need that accommodation, that you indicate that on the application. So sometimes we did this actually last year. There was a great match, but the fellow was out of state or was in a different state, and the organization was able to kind of be accommodating to that because the fellow was really a really great match. So that's another option where it's really up to the organization, depending on your need and depending on your capacity, if you're able to provide that accommodation. But typically, both the fellow and the host organization would indicate if they have a preference and their comfort level on in-person, hybrid, or remote. And then we'll also base matching off of that as well.
And then our next question is, for host orgs that want to select fellows, how do they see the applicants? So in our application, you will select, like, I want to be a part of the matching process. So that will let us know that you want to select your fellow. So we take a look at the applications, we select the pool of applicants that we feel would be a great match with you all. So we send you all around 3 to 5 fellows, depending on how many fellows we think would be a great match. You take a look at their application, and from there you're able to decide, which fellow might suit your organization. And like Gabby mentioned, you're able to, ask for an interview from the selected pool of applicants, just to see what matches the best as well.
And we're kind of like the middle person as well to support with that initial communication, so that fellows are aware that this is part of the process for a potential placement and that the organization is requesting an interview. And if there's more time that's needed, we of course will work with the organization to ensure that it's a good match and it's not a rushed decision as well.
Any other lingering questions that we didn't get to?
And then we also have the host organization frequently asked questions, just in case folks might want to access that. One of the questions that we also tend to get is if Dream Summer covers for relocation of Dream Summer fellows, and the short answer is no. Unfortunately, we're not able to. But of course, as I mentioned, there are options of having a fellow remote that joins your organization remotely, or organizations that might be able to fund that fellow as well.
Yeah. And I also shared with folks the supervisor's responsibility guide. So y'all can take a look at what we expect from these host organizations. And then lastly, I shared the link to our application.
I think if there are no more other questions, I'm okay with staying here and being in silent as well, but I will stop the recording just so that it's not too